Welcome. Glad you guys are here. This is Nutrition 101, the path to nourishment. So the reason why I do this seminar is nutrition should be a fun, exciting thing. This has turned into some like big, scary monster that I think a lot of people either are intimidated by, or you maybe grew up like me, or you grew up, or maybe you are like I used to be, where I grew up on Pop-Tarts and Captain Crunch, and I just ate fast food every single day because my family just didn't know anything. And the idea is that how do we start getting back to more of a fundamental way of eating that is nourishing to the body? Does that make sense? Like, how do we just eat in a way that's supportive to how our body was created? Like, God designed your body in a certain way. How do we just put more foods that God created in your body and less foods that are made by man? If you could just write that down and go home tonight, you'll be successful. More food by God, less food by man. There's your secret sauce right there. But here you guys, my prayer tonight is honestly this. If you're a little bit intimidated by food or don't know where to start, I hope that tonight you leave equipped and empowered to understand how and what food does to your body so we can make it simple. This should be a simple thing and a fun thing. I love food, so I do this. How do we make this thing good, right? So, as we go in tonight, here's what we got to understand. Going back to God made food and man made food. If we believe that our bodies are from the Holy Spirit, right? If we believe that our body is the temple of God, then here's the thing. As a Christian, I think that we gotta start acting like it. It's one thing to say it, and then as I'm saying it, and I'm coming home from church and I'm eating McDonald's, vandalizing God's temple, that's very counterintuitive. Does that make sense? So the idea is that if we believe that this is the Holy Spirit's temple, then as we're eating, the way that I think about this is that when I'm eating food, it's black and white. Is this food going to support the temple or is it not? Is it going to be supportive to my body or is it not? And it can be a really simple thing. So as we go into this, here's where we're going to be starting off. The goal of tonight is to help you understand how to clean up the carbs, how to fix your fats, and how to perfect your proteins. Big macros, how do we clean up the macros? How do we simplify the macros? Now, as we get into this, a couple of things that we want to be aware of. Big things that I think have led us to be as sick as we are: sugars, fats, and toxins. I'm going to clarify that as processed sugars, rancid fats, and toxins, right? We're going to dive into all of those pretty deep tonight to help you understand that a little bit bigger. But these are the three main things that if you look at culture today and you look at how sick we've become and you look at all of the chronic diseases that we have, most of these are coming back to most of our diets are set around high sugar, rancid fats, and toxins, chemicals in the food. That right there is what our diet typically consists of. So the idea is how do we start moving to more of a whole food diet that's supported, right? So, gotta start here. Who knows they have a sugar high? Yes, it's okay. Own it. So here's the idea. You start looking at sugar high. Here's why we talk about sugar. You know that if somebody has cancer and they go in to figure out how their cancer is doing, they give you this liquid to drink. Do you know what that liquid is? Sugar. They literally give you sugar because when they do the PET scan to see if you have cancer, cancer feeds off of sugar. It will light up on a cancer scan. So when we're eating sugar, you're literally feeding cancer cells in your body. So we have to understand that processed sugar as a whole is something that we overconsume significantly. But the interesting thing is that most of you guys, it's probably not what you think. Because when you think of sugar, what's the first thing that comes to your guys' mind? What kind of things? Candy. What else? Cookies, soda. Here's a fun fact for you. You guys know they did a study and they found that the average American in our country drinks 55 gallons of soda a year. Does that make you want to throw up a little bit? It shouldn't make you want to. 55 gallons of soda. And this is the idea. You start looking at how much sugar we're consuming, and you look at how the body affects sugar. You guys, have you heard of the cocaine study that they did with sugar? So they did this study with mice, and they gave water dishes, and they put sugar in one water dish, and they put cocaine in another water dish, and then they measured brain activity. The same area of the brain that cocaine affects your brain, that same area of the brain gets affected when you eat sugar. This is why it's so addictive. That's why when we get it, we have a hard time stopping sugar because it's that addicting, just like cocaine is. So when we start to look at sugar, we got to really be careful where we're getting it, the source of it, and how much we're putting in our bodies. So far, so good? Yes. Now, inflammation. Most people, I think when I talk to them, at least when I've seen patients coming in, one of the biggest things that we struggle with is inflammation, right? Here's an interesting concept, is that a majority, I would say like 80 to 90% of our chronic illnesses are from chronic inflammation, long-term systemic inflammation. But we start to look at the things that cause inflammation, so elevated amounts of sugar in your body. You go to damaged fats and toxins, sugars, fats, toxins. Those are the things that are going to lead to inflammation. You lead inflammation in the body for a prolonged period of time. This is where we start seeing really bad things. So if you look up or if you Google type 3 diabetes, you guys heard this before? You know what type 3 diabetes is now? Alzheimer's. So what they're now finding is that type 3 diabetes, or a prolonged levels of insulin or sugar in the body, literally eats away your brain and start to break that down. But as we go through our day-to-day, you start to look at the normal lifestyle, the normal day of most people, and the type of sugar we're consuming, you guys named out candies, sugars, cookies, soda, all that stuff. The majority of what we're eating is actually grains, and it's processed grains. So think about our breakfast, Pop-Tart, right? Pop-Tart, cereal, bagel, and then you go to your lunch, we're having a sandwich of some kind with probably potato chips, which is not grain, but you're taking this whole thing. Now you go over to dinner, pastas, pizzas, breads, right? You see how like almost every meal, there's always a bread of some kind. And the problem is that it's not a properly sourced bread. So there's an enzyme in your body. This is wild. When I first heard this, it's an enzyme in your body called alpha amylase. When you put that in your body, bread, right? If you eat bread, 7 seconds after you eat bread, your body turns it to sugar. 7 seconds. So if you eat a bagel, this is why if you eat a bagel or something like that, your insulin spikes up so high. And they're like, well, why does that happen? It's because your body literally breaks it down into sugar. So when we're constantly eating like the grains, and then we're having sugary things on top of that, I mean, your body's overloaded with insulin. Your body's overloaded with sugar. So we start to think about how do we clean up some of the carbs? Well, before we get there, so who knows what that is? Any scientists in the room know what that is? Yes.
Fructose.
Fructose. Okay. Where do we find this majority of the time? So what's worse than sugar? Splenda. Splenda, sucralose. These are like the processed forms, artificial sweeteners is what they start to call them now. So what's worse than a normal? I would rather somebody have organic cane sugar than things like aspartame, sucralose. Those are artificial sweeteners. And what artificial sweeteners are is a neurotoxin. So if you see aspartame, it's considered a neurotoxin. What that means is that aspartame has the ability to bypass the blood-brain barrier and start to eat away at your brain cells. Artificial sweetener is one of the worst things you can have, but the problem is that nowadays, I mean, it's really difficult to find food that doesn't have it. So most times, if you guys are seeing marketing on a label, we're going to get to label reading in a minute, if you see marketing and it says 0 sugar, no sugar, you go to the label, guarantee you're going to see sucralose, sucrose, aspartame, all these artificial sweeteners that they're putting in it, that's actually worse than regular sugar. And we start to think about this. This is why even when we go to like, if you go to breakfast somewhere, and on the table they have all the packets of sugars, right? The pinks and the yellows and all that stuff. And they have Splenda. And one time we went somewhere and they literally had a packet of aspartame that you could put in your coffee. And I was like, hey, let's just take them all and throw them in the garbage so we can save the next person. Like, but this is the idea, is that wherever we are going, there's so much in abundance of this stuff that when you put this in your body, you start to wonder why our brains are constantly firing. We can't get them to calm down. We can't get ourselves to relax. It's because we're constantly elevating our brain with these processed sugars that are running rampant. So, now, what are some natural things that you could do that are better? So you're honestly, again, go back to God made things. You are better getting organic maple syrup, raw local honey, organic coconut sugar. Like, these are way better alternatives to sweeten things. I think my wife honestly puts a little bit of maple syrup in her coffee to sweeten it instead of just tablespoons of sugar. There's a video I almost saw. I was going to bring it, but it was like too hard to get to work with the speakers. But this lady was pouring like massive amounts of sugar in this coffee cup. And it was a joke, but she's put like huge amounts of sugar in the coffee cup. And everyone's like, oh my God, that's disgusting. Why would you do that? And she put this, basically like a jar like that of sugar in this coffee cup. And as you're watching, you're like, how the why would she do this? And then when she gets done with it, she goes, yeah, this is the exact amount of sugar that is in a Frappuccino that you get at Starbucks. And this is what you guys are drinking when you go to Starbucks and you're grabbing these big old sugary drinks. That's the amount of sugar. We don't see that side, right? We just see the beautiful sprinkles and all the fun stuff. So you got to be aware of where we're getting this in. Real quick. And then stevia and monk fruit, those are better alternatives in moderation. Again, you want to stick with more whole natural sweeteners like the honey and the maple syrup. You're getting coconut sugar. If you're going to be baking, coconut sugar is a really good alternative to bake with. Has a really good flavor to it, so that's what I would recommend if you do that. And then, so when we clean up our carbs, I think that carbs have gotten a really bad rap, right? I think that a lot of people, when you think about eating, most people are like, oh my God, carbs, never eat a carb, you're gonna get fat, it's gonna be unhealthy. That's true if you're eating the processed, like Wonder Bread kind of carb that is out there. If you're eating the American processed carbs that are here, yes, those are terrible. But have you guys heard stories of people going to like Europe and eating pasta and having no issues? Because it's actually whole over there. They don't process it like we do. So the idea is like if you're gonna have carbs or you're gonna have grains, then what you want to start doing is having something that's either ancient grain or a sprouted grain, or in my opinion, one of the best is like a sourdough. So if you're getting a sourdough, so at our house, my wife makes sourdough bread from scratch. We have a starter and she does it from scratch. And what's amazing about sourdough is if you're doing sourdough from a starter, it's a live enzyme. So if you guys know much about that, like you have to be really careful with the starter because they can like die off because it's a live enzyme. So that means if you're eating fresh cooked sourdough bread, there are enzymes in there that are actually healthy for your gut. Who would have thought you can have bread and have it be good for your gut? But it has to be something that's made whole. And then when she makes it, there's like 4 ingredients or something like that. So it's really clean, really simple. And this is how we can still enjoy things like bread, but not kill ourselves in the process. Because like the goal is, you go come here tonight, right? Is not be like, let me hear all the stuff I can't have. The goal was, how do I do it right? Is that fair? It's like you can have it, but make sure you're gonna have sprouted. That's why if you go to Sprouts and you go get Ezekiel bread, it's always in the refrigerator. It's a live bread, so it has to be kept in the refrigerator. So you want to be eating things that are more alive and have positive enzymes that are going to help feed your body. So that's step there with carbs. Now, going into this one, fat. Who's heard the whole adage that fat makes you fat? If you eat fat, you're going to get fat. So that's why we eat low fat, or we eat skim, we drink skim milk, or we always eat low fat everything. Nobody? You guys are awesome. Okay, I was gonna say, usually the whole room is like erupting. So this is like one of the worst things out there because it's so untrue. Like fat does not make you fat. If you're eating the right fat, it's the most supportive thing for your body. In fact, if you think about fat, here's what's wild. If you get down to like the biology of your body, your hormone, the building block of your hormones in your body is fat. There's a phospholipid bilayer around your cells. It's basically a fancy way of saying there's a fat layer around your cells that literally protects your cells. Your neurology is surrounded in a fat layer. Like there's so much benefit to having good fat. That's why you guys heard like you want to have omega-3s or like fish oil, right? Because fish oil is a healthy fat for the body. And if you think about your brain, like 70% of your brain neurology is made up of fat. So the idea is like there's so much good that can come if you're fueling the body. This is where, are you guys familiar with the ketogenic diet before? So, does anybody know how that started? So, there were kids who were having epilepsy. And this one guy was like, hey, the brain is going into spasm. Let's try to give them a diet more rich in fat. And they put them into ketosis and gave them lots and lots of healthy fats. And that's what helped bring down the epilepsy. So they started to think, oh my gosh, there's something to this, which kind of dove it in. But the original foundation of that diet was literally based off the idea that you're fueling the brain, the body with healthy fat. So you want to have good fats in your body. However, there's a lot of bad fats. So on the bad fat side, whenever you see hydrogenated oils, if you ever, most times if you get a jar of Skippy peanut butter, you're going to see hydrogenated oils in there. So hydrogenated or trans fats, those are all things you want to avoid. When when they did this whole shift, right? Back in the day, they did this big shift. There was a guy where when you look at, where is it? He came out with things like vegetable oil, and this is where everybody goes, it's vegetables. It's got to be something good. It's a trans fat. So these are all rancid. So whenever you see anything that has hydrogenated or trans here, those are things that have become rancid in the body, which means it's foreign. So when you put that in your body cannot recognize it, which puts it into this sympathetic shock, which is why it doesn't understand. So you don't want to be putting rancid fats in the body, which is like margarine, which is what I grew up on my whole life. But things like that, you have to be really careful of. So when they started to implement this whole thing about switching over from butter to margarine and to a lot of these other oils, if you look back at the data, what's interesting is around that time frame on, the rate of heart attacks in the U.S. went up like 220,000 went up because of how devastating this is actually for your body. So whenever you start seeing things like cottonseed oil, soybean oil, one that's not up here, but safflower oil is another really big one. You want to avoid safflower oil. Canola oil, corn oil. I mean, canola oil is, that's freaking in everything. It's really hard to avoid canola oil. But that's something that, again, is a rancid oil. And when we go to Costco sometimes, it's frustrating because you'll pull something up, it says organic on it, and it says, oh, this is going to be good. Then you turn it around, and you see like canola oil and safflower oil. Like, to the point where in our family, any one of those oils, like, it just doesn't belong in my house. We won't let it in the house because it's really that toxic for you. But here's the beauty of this whole thing. Get to this side, there are a lot of really good fats that are supportive to your body that you want to put in. So fats are going to keep you satiated. So if you're someone who's always hungry and you're like, man, I would love to eat something that's going to help me last a little bit longer, healthy fats are going to keep you fuller longer, or satiated longer. So if you're looking at things like avocados, extra virgin olive oil, by the way, side note, so even healthy fats, so like olive oil is something that should not be cooked with. So you don't want to heat olive oil. There's like a temperature point on that. So olive oil should be done like on salads, I guess dressing and stuff like that. But the moment you start to heat olive oil, it has a very low smoke point, which means that it turns rancid. Does that make sense? So you don't want to cook with olive oil. You want to use it at room temperature. But coconut oil, avocado oil, those things, if you go like at Costco, if you buy like the big thing of avocado oil, if you look on the front, it'll say like it's either 400 or 500 degrees on there. And it says it on there. And that's because it has a really high melting point. It means you can cook and heat that up pretty high. If you're gonna fry something or cook or bake something, you want to use that oil because it's not going to turn rancid at high temperatures. So those are the things you want to cook with. So avocado oil, coconut oil, we cook a lot with even just grass-fed butter. So Kerrygold grass-fed butter is something that you want to stick with. Things like raw cheese. So dairy is something where, again, we've gone back. You want to be on full-fat dairy. Whole, full-fat dairy. That's probably counter to what we've been talking for a long time. And you start to think about anything that's like milk that's 2%, or anything that's like that. Was that yogurt? Yogurt that's 2%, all that stuff. Anything that's not whole fat. You got to think that what they have to do to take the fat out, there's a lot of processing that goes into that. They have to process it a lot to take the fat out, and then they have to add chemicals in to make sure it tastes normal now, because they just mess with it so much. So you want to have whole fat yogurt, whole fat milk, raw milk. We get raw milk from like a farm, dairy farm, right? It's not farm, right? So we get that to our house. So that stuff is, there's so many good properties if you're sticking with whole and raw in the organic form. A lot of good stuff over here that you can eat. Then they did this fun study. So they did this petri dish. They took margarine, reduced fat margarine, and then put like grass-fed butter. Even like insects understand what's better for you. I thought this is really fun. But you start to look at it. If you look at the ingredients to margarine, or if you Google it, they've been said that it's a couple ingredients away from being classified as plastic. And this is the stuff that we eat. So when it says, I can't believe it's not butter, it's because it's not. It's far from butter. So you want to stay away from that kind of stuff. Another myth: cholesterol, high cholesterol leads to heart disease, heart attacks. Who's happy to hear that that's not true? Yes. So here's what's interesting. More people die each year with low cholesterol than high cholesterol. We're going to break through this myth now. This is my favorite one to break up. So, when you think about cholesterol is your fundamental building block. When something goes wrong in your body, cholesterol goes in and tries to like patch it up and fix. It's a healing hormone, okay? So when you look at cholesterol, here's why cholesterol's gotten a bad rap. Long time ago, there's a guy named Ansel Keys, this researcher, that basically said cholesterol creates heart attacks. And here's what they went in, looked at arteries, and they saw a lot of cholesterol, a lot of plaquing arteries, and he goes, hey, that cholesterol probably caused the heart attack, so we need to stay away from cholesterol. Now what we know is there's more to the story, okay? So here's how this works. So I'm drawing an artery. So if that's the inside of an artery, when you have high inflammation in your body, when you're having rancid fats, when you're having trans fats, when you're having high levels of processed sugar, what that does, that actually goes in, and there's something called a spike molecule in there, and then basically those create inflammation in the body. When you have high inflammation in the body, it becomes very sharp and jagged on the inside. So when that's going into your bloodstream, it basically creates small lacerations along the inside of the arterial wall. So when you have small lacerations on the inside of the arterial wall, what the body does, again, God built you so brilliantly that he says, hey, go send cholesterol there to go patch it up. Cholesterol says, cool. Comes over here, starts patching up the bad guy, and then what do? We go back, grab another donut, we go grab some Mickey D's, and then we have more lacerations, so the body goes, oh shoot, more cholesterol, and then, as you guys can probably guess, our lifestyle doesn't stop, because this is what we do as Americans, more is better. So we just keep pumping in the inflammation. The body keeps sending cholesterol to fix this area. So now we have plaqued, hardened, oxidized cholesterol stuck in the artery. So if blood is trying to go through here, and I shorten that amount, the blood pressure is now going to do what? Go up. So what this does, this now creates increased blood pressure. You also have elevated levels of cholesterol. So then you go to your doctor and you're like, hey, I don't feel good, something's not right. And they go do a test and they say, shoot, blood pressure's through the roof, cholesterol's up, let's put you on a cholesterol drug to lower your cholesterol. Let's get you on a blood pressure medication, lower the blood pressure. And if this is the issue right here, and you say, I'm just gonna chemically alter your body to lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol, but no one talks to you about what you did to create that problem in the first place, and you continue to eat the inflammation, continue to create the problem, what's eventually going to happen? There's a big problem there. You guys see that? And this is when our culture, why it's become so backwards, that we don't teach people cause. We just say, how can we cover up the symptom? How can I just thin the blood so that you can get more blood through there? Let me just put you on a blood thinner then, so you can get more blood in there, instead of saying, well, how can I teach you how to stop making that happen? How can I teach you how to create a better nutritional diet and other lifestyle things to lower stress, lower oxidation, so that your body doesn't keep doing that? And this is where the problem comes in with cholesterol. Cholesterol is a good thing for the body. We demonize it over the years, because we don't understand it. But this is the issue, is that if we keep doing this, and this is why people have heart attacks with low cholesterol, is because we don't address the problem, but we chemically lower your cholesterol. So now you still have the heart attack because we didn't fix the problem, but you have low cholesterol. You guys see that? Like, this is the idea, is that you gotta be really mindful with this whole thing. So, another one is that the fat in meats, saturated fat in meats, or red meat, creates heart disease, cancer, kidney disease. We heard this one before too? Red meat's gonna give you cancer, heart disease, all that stuff. Who's also happy that that's also a myth? Yes! This class is fun, huh? No, but here's the idea, is that when I saw this, or when you hear this, I would bet that all of these studies were done eating conventional meats. You eat conventional meats pumped with antibiotics, pumped with chemicals, pumped with hormones. That is so toxic that I agree. You eat that stuff, you will get a heart attack, and that probably will lead to cancer and kidney disease. I agree. because there's so much chemical in processed meats. Like when you go to the store and you order fries and you go grab a $4 ribeye, and I go to Sprouts and I grab a $20 grass-fed ribeye, and you say, man, you got suckered, I got a good deal. There's a problem when you're getting a ribeye for $4. Do you guys understand that? Like, there's a problem there. That's got to be a pretty disgusting cow for them to be able to do it that cheap. Like, what you're paying for over here is all of the health benefit of the omega-3 fatty acids in a grass-fed cow and the lack of chemicals. Like, there's no chemicals in those cows because they're free-ranging and they're eating grass like they should be. You start to look at what this stuff looks like. When we start talking about changing products, protein needs to be the thing that you clean up first. I will say that through and through again, that if you're going to make a change, I would rather you buy, I'll say this openly on the camera, I would rather you buy not organic vegetables and buy a grass-fed piece of meat. Because of the amount of chemicals you're going to get, the amount of hormones you're going to get, the amount of antibiotics you're going to get, it's so more heavily stacked in the meat than it is on the vegetables that you would be better off changing your protein first. So when it comes to meats, you're going to want to stick with the grass-fed beef, you're going to want the free-range chicken, and I'm going to clarify real fast. Free-range chicken or free-range eggs are not the same as cage-free. That's different. And they try to market you because that's what they do. Cage-free just means that they're still in a confined space, but the cage is open. Okay? If you Google cage-free, you'll look at the difference versus pasture-raised chickens. Pasture-raised means that they are out roaming the pasture. That's what they want. You want free range. They have free range. That's what you want to see. Anything that says cage-free, it's a marketing gimmick. Don't buy it. It's no better for you. Wild-caught fish. Again, if you look at wild-caught salmon or wild-caught fish, you go Google farm-raised fish, and I don't have to say much more. You'll never eat farm-raised fish again. But there's so much, again, the fish get so caught in, the animals get so caught in when they're like this, that they get sick, and then they have to give them so many medications. So it's like, we understand that, like, we don't want antibiotics in our body, because it's not good for us. But yet, when we buy conventional meat, you're basically eating animals that had antibiotics and a bunch of junk in them. So this is where you want to be really careful with your meats. And also, again, the benefit is when you're getting grass-fed beef, the saturated fat in grass-fed, in a grass-fed steak or a grass-fed red meat is actually healing to the body. It's good for the body. It's like having raw grass-fed butter. Same concept. It's good saturated fat. That's what you want to be eating. So you can get a lot of good positive omega-3 fatty acids in a grass-fed piece of meat. So that's what you want to stick with when you're going there. And then we went over dairy. So raw, natural forms of dairy is important. Who's heard of eating nose to tail? Okay, it's a perfect seminar for you guys. It's great. So, nose to tail. What does this mean? 100 years ago, we used to eat animals nose to tail, meaning that when you killed an animal, you would eat the heart, you would eat the liver, you would eat the organ, you would eat the whole animal. Now we've gotten down to the point where we basically just eat like the beef of it. We don't eat any of the organ meats. Now, when you start to look at it, what does this mean? So you want to be eating liver and heart and other kinds of organs, and what's interesting is if you take, I wish I had the picture on me, but if you look at a picture of like the benefits of kale versus the benefits of beef liver, it will blow you away to see how much kale you need to eat to equal the same benefit as like this much liver. It is insane. So the idea of organ meats is that there are so many micronutrients and minerals in organ meats that are super, super good for you that you want to be getting more of that. Okay, so I believe you should be eating nose to tail because there's so much benefit to that. I won't bring this guy up, but there's a funny phrase that's out there that says, why have vegetables when you can have testicles? You guys heard that before? I'm not promoting you guys even quick testicles. Now, if you ever had liver, it's really hard to get in. So this is why, so at the office, we sell grass-fed beef liver. So every morning, I take grass-fed beef liver because it's hard to stomach eating regular liver. I still do it once in a while, but it's way easier to just take a couple capsules of this and get all the same nutrient benefits from this. So we sell this here in the office, and this is something that most people, I actually, just for an experiment, I stopped taking all like multivitamins for a little while, and I went strictly to getting just beef liver. and I felt really good. And again, because of all the things you're getting, huge benefit in getting beef liver. So, those of you guys who are like cringing at me in the crowd, don't want to eat it. Couple ways that you can get it in. Number one, supplement with it, right? So that's option A. Option B, if you go to, you can either Google this company, or I think Whole Foods has it. There's a company called Force of Nature. It's actually really cool. Force of Nature, you can buy ground beef, and then they put a percentage of heart in there and a percentage of liver in there. They ground it up and mix it together. So if you were to eat a hamburger, for example, you would never know it's in there. Like, you can't taste it at all. But you have the benefit of it being in there. So Force of Nature is that company. Toxins. How many of you guys, well, you guys are new to the office today, you have no idea what this is. So, 3 years ago, I wanted to prove a point. So I went to Albertsons right here, and I bought a thing of muffins. That's it. I bought this 3 years ago. And if you look at this muffin, what's wrong with it? It's the exact same. There's not 1 ounce of mold on this muffin whatsoever. It literally still smells like it smells like a blueberry muffin. Like there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever, except it just became rock hard. Here's the thing: is there are so many preservatives and chemicals inside these foods that we're buying over at the stores. There's like cytotoxins, and you start to think about like this is the stuff that we're grabbing on the go. This is the stuff that we're giving to our kids, and the body does not know how to. If this can't even break down in nature, your body, how's it going to break it down, right? Like this should not be eaten. You guys want to pass it around? I had somebody goes, let me get a bite of that muffin. It's like, you don't want that. But so here's the idea: is that we have to, if we're going to be eating things like, I'm not saying don't have a muffin. What I'm saying is if you're going to have a muffin, you want a blueberry muffin, make it yourself from scratch so you know what's in it. You know what's in that muffin. Like, it's okay. We made, again, sourdough. We made sourdough muffins. Best things ever. Healthy to the body because, again, the enzymes. So you want to start looking at things that are going to support you there. So you start looking at, we call them frankenfoods because that's not real food. Obviously, that's what's going in there. The pesticides that get sprayed on all of the fruit that's around, right? So that's why you want to buy organic fruits. I'm going to give you guys a quick tip. If you've heard of something called the EWG, Environmental Working Group, they have something called the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen, okay? You can Google that. Every year they update it, but the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen, what that is if you're someone who's like, hey, I don't want to buy everything organic, I want to like save a little money here and there, what that does is it says the Clean 15 are 15 foods that are the least sprayed foods that you don't have to buy organic. The Dirty Dozen list are things that you should always buy organic. They're heavily sprayed, okay? Other things to be mindful about is on the Clean 15 side, or other things is like if you're going to buy a banana where you're not going to eat the outside, you're going to eat the inside, right? Something like that, or an avocado. I would never buy an organic avocado because I'm not eating the outside, I mean the inside. So stuff like that are ways that you can think about to be more mindful about maybe saving some money if you're going to be shopping for fruits and stuff like that. Dangerous additives. Okay, I'm going to get to this right here. So, label reading. This is huge. A lot of times label reading, if any patient, we go to the store and they ask me, they say, hey, is this good or bad? Right away, all you have to do is you just look what's in it. When you look at the label, most of us have been trained to look at the label and you look at how many calories is in it, how many fat is in it. Long story short, that doesn't really matter. What matters is what are the ingredients, what's actually in the food. And when you start to look at the ingredients of what's in the food, that's going to tell you right away if it's good or bad. Because I don't even look at the other part. I can look at what's in it and tell you that's disgusting. That's got a bunch of blah, 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 right? So, just to prove a point, I was at the gas station at Shell, and I walked inside, and I said, let me just go grab something simple, and let's see what's in it. And I took a picture of it because it was so disturbing. So I grabbed a ham and cheese sandwich. That's the ingredient list. On a ham and cheese sandwich. There should be like 4 ingredients in that. And then you start looking at all the stuff that's in there, and this is disgusting. Like, I start looking at the lettuce. For God's sake, the lettuce is like way down here. Like leafy green is somewhere way down here. Soybean oil, you're going to see carrageenan, that's another processed chemical that's in there. I mean, this thing is just loaded. And we go in there thinking, hey, fresh and ready, that's gotta be good for you, right? It's clean. And this is where like you have to learn to read your labels, because when you see something like this, it seems really good. And they even put it, remember where I was just saying how you guys were trained to get the calories? They put it right in the front, 470 calories, because that's what we're gonna look for. You turn it over and you see that, and you're like, I should never buy that. You see the difference there? One more for you. And I had to bring this up. Gatorade is something that, again, you should never be drinking again. You start to look at Gatorade, the second ingredient, sugar. Third ingredient, sugar. Then you come down, remember I was talking about sucralose and sucrose? Artificial sweetener, right here. Then you go down to, it has natural flavors, which knows that's gotta be disgusting. And then it's got 2 different colorings of yellow in there. Anytime you see a coloring, yellow, red, blue, any of those colorings, that is a significant toxin that should not be on your body. So whenever you see a coloring, you want to stay away from that thing like a plague. And this is what we're feeding our kids, because we see a commercial with Michael Jordan sweating highlighted orange on them, and we're like, oh my God, that must make you play better. And it's just so bad. So the idea is that there are so many other forms of electrolytes that are good for you. So we have them up here in the front. There's two of them that we really like. One's called Ultima. That's a really good one. If you need a stronger one, there's one called Element, LMNT. Two different electrolyte powders that you can add to your water that will give you all the benefit you need without all the garbage that goes in and something like this.
Is that the same as like a Pedialyte for kids?
Ooh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you. Pedialyte also should never be drinking by July ever again. And you start looking at what's in Pedialyte, same thing. Artificial sweeteners are in Pedialyte too. So if you go grab a Pedialyte and you turn it around and look at the ingredients in it, it is crazy to see how many artificial sweeteners are in Pedialyte, because we're trying to give our kids electrolytes. So my kids, full transparency, ever since he was like super little, his juice, that if you tell him he wants juice, his juice is like raspberry electrolyte water. That's what he thinks juice is, because it's just simple.
Heidi wants to know, what about sugar-free Gatorade?
What do you think's in it? Aspartame! You go find sugar-free Gatorade, you bring it to my house, and I'll show it to you. We'll talk about it. Deal? Deal. Okay, then we go into, next thing is, I don't need to take supplements because I get all that from the food I eat. This is always one I love to talk about. So people go, I don't need to take vitamins because I get all my nutrients from my food. If this was 100 years ago, like your great-grandparents, then they're probably accurate. Nowadays, our soil is so depleted that a lot of the nutrients aren't in the foods that you think. Like if you, again, you can Google this and see this, but like a cup of spinach 20, 30, 40 years ago to a cup of spinach today, you have to eat like 5 times the amount of spinach to get the same amount of ingredients, the same amount of nutrients. So like, the food is so depleted. The problem is that we just need to eat so much more of it because we're not getting what we need. This is why supplementation is something where I trust me, I wish you didn't have to take vitamins either. Like way easier. But the nature of the game is that we just need to make sure, even if you're eating whole food quality, like I think that if you're eating everything whole and natural, then I think you probably need less supplementation. But most people are just severely depleted because of what we've done our whole lives, of so much toxicity and so much, like there's anti-nutrients, like sugar is like an anti-nutrient, it like depletes your body. So you start to think about some of that added up over all the time, your body just needs help. So when we start to dive in, this is one of the things that we have here in the office that I just think is so simple. So I mean, this is literally mine from home. So here in the office, if you're a patient, you should have one of these. If you're not, here's how this thing works. My man brain is so simple that I don't like, I used to have so many bottles of supplements I have to like sift through all day long. What the daily essential is now is basically a little packet where I open this thing up, I pull it out, everything I need is all in here, and then I go. It's really simple. Take it in, and everything I need. So in here it has a vitamin D, it's got a probiotic, it's got a vitamin B, an omega, a magnesium, and a multivitamin. All in one packet, and you're done with it. So like, for us, again, Nutrition 101, how do we simplify things down? You just, like that as simple as it can get, you know? So I tell people, if you want, that's what I recommend you do, because that's just something that most people need in their nutritional deficiency there. Tonight, you guys all came in, so every seminar, if you're familiar with our seminars, every seminar we give a discount on all of our supplements. So this is why most people like to stock up on our seminar nights. So if you buy anything tonight, you get 10% off everything we do. So you're good to go. So that's something that you want to be aware of for. Yeah, sorry.
You have somebody that can
Cancel. So everything except for all of them except for the omega are capsules you can open and put in. But I would go talk to the girls, go find Morgan after work, and then we can kind of like piece it out, and then all of it you can open up and done. Yeah. Mindful absorption, I call mindful eating. We had to add this in, and this is because so many people in today's culture, when you go down to eat or you go to eat breakfast, we look more like this. Instead of sitting down, eating, cooking with our family, we are looking for something quick. What can I get on the go? I don't have time to sit down and eat, right? Can we all relate to that? So here's the thing. Eating is a parasympathetic, I'm going to get a little bit of science here. It's a parasympathetic function, meaning you guys are familiar with like fight or flight or rest and what? Rest and digest. So parasympathetic is your rest and digest, meaning that when you go to eat, like there's a process that should happen. Meaning if I'm sitting there and I'm cooking food with my family, the smell of the food starts to create hormones in your body ready to eat. Your stomach is being prepared to eat. The cooking of it, like the whole process is a process for a reason. It's getting our body ready to be eating food. But when we just go grab like a Starbucks and we grab a protein bar and we're literally like eating in the car, driving to work real fast, your body is in fight or flight mode. And you're not going to digest or absorb the right amount of food or food period if you're in fight or flight mode. So if we're someone who you're always eating on the go, you're always doing something, and you're never like sitting down, like I would challenge you guys for like the next couple of weeks to sit down and like sit down, pray over your food, pray with your family, be thankful for what's in front of you, and like appreciate each bite of what you're eating, and watch like the difference it has on your body, how your body absorbs the food, how it takes it in. Like there's a whole different ball game when you can sit there and like be mindful of it. I noticed with us, so I have a 3-year-old and I have an 8-month-old. So being mindful and present at dinner time is maybe not always the easiest. I'm getting like something thrown in my face. But at the same time, I noticed that when we sit down as a family and do that, they eat way better. Versus when we're up on the go doing it, like they don't eat either, right? So it's like they'll eat better, kids will eat better when we create that environment for us too. So that's your homework for mindful eating. Okay, as we close this thing out, here's a couple things. How does all, like why as a chiropractor, why do I talk about this? Like, and here's a couple things. Number one is if you're eating all that rancid stuff and toxic stuff, if you're coming to me and my job is to help you get well and help your body heal, does it make sense that it's going to be more difficult for me to help your body heal if you're constantly putting in toxic stuff, right? So like, if I'm going to help your body heal, you got to make, that has to be a focus to eliminate that piece there. Biggest piece though, is that we have to look at, think about your body can really realistically go like almost months without food if you wanted to. You can go weeks without water. You can go minutes without having air. But do you guys understand that your body cannot go 1 second without having proper nerve supply to your body? You start to look at that hierarchy, and the idea is that you can take all this stuff tonight and apply it. I hope that you take something tonight and you apply it. But the idea is that if you're not taking care of your spine and your nervous system, like the ability of your body to break down and absorb the nutrients that you eat. So after tonight, you go buy more quality food for your body to actually absorb and utilize the food that you're going to eat. That takes nerve supply from the body. The brain has to send a signal down your spinal cord, out through a nerve to talk to your digestive system to tell it what to do. So the problem is that if your spine is not in the right alignment, or if your nervous system is messed up, and there's a disconnect from your brain talking to that area, you guys also see how like that's not going to work. And this is where it always like drives people. It makes them ask so many questions when they come in with digestive issues, they start getting adjusted, haven't even really changed their food yet, but they start seeing that all of a sudden now their body is regulating. There was a guy, this just happened 2 weeks ago. I had a guy come in, he said, yeah, I have a bowel movement like once every 3 to 4 days. And I was like, okay, well, we'll get there. And got him adjusted, 2 adjustments in, he's now having 2 bowel movements every single day. And he comes in, he's like, I can't see bad words. He goes, what did you do to me? I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, whatever you did, like, I'm on the toilet twice a day, and I didn't used to do that. And I was like, you're welcome. Body's working better. Body's assimilating. The body is flushing things out like it's supposed to. So you start to look at, like, this is a massive piece. So if you're a patient in this office, like, again, you've probably experienced this, you've seen this. If you're a guest in the office, this is where I would say that you should start, honestly, because if the body is not able to function properly, the brain can't talk to your body properly, at the end of the day, it really isn't going to make too much of a difference then, because you're not going to even absorb the food that you're eating. My thing is, if you're going to spend good quality money on good food, get your money's worth out of that and allow your body the chance to absorb and take it in. So this is where the chiropractic piece plays a really big role in allowing your body to function with whatever food or minerals you're intaking. So here's your homework for tonight, leaving here. So 3 things. Number 1, when you, as a patient, you guys came in, you have a nutrition guide. So homework is, if you haven't opened that yet, let's open that and read your nutrition guide. A lot of good information in there. You also got a recipe book. Same concept. If you haven't opened that book yet, there are a lot of really good, delicious, healthy recipes. So if you're sitting there saying, man, I don't know what to eat, I don't know what to cook, I don't know how to cook, like, that book has all kinds of options for you to try and experiment. So that's where I would start. And then the last thing is, go home and start going through your pantry, go through your fridge, and just start reading labels. Like, look at what we learned tonight and start understanding what's in the things that you're eating. And here's what I would tell you is that when you're looking at a label, last thing is, the smaller, obviously, the better, right? You don't want a lot of stuff inside that. But also, whatever's closer to the front, that's the majority of what's in it. The things that are at the bottom is like the lowest of what's in there. So when you're looking at that, if the second ingredient, like Gatorade, second ingredient is sugar, that's a problem. So when you're looking at your ingredients, make sure that if you can't understand the words that are inside there, that's a problem. You should know what each of those things are that's going inside your body. So far, so good? Cool. So if you guys finish this thing out, if you are a patient and you want to stock up on supplements, go see Ann in the back. Ann is going to help with that. If you're a guest and you're like, hey, this is really cool, it makes a lot of sense, I want to know more about what you guys do, and you want to make an appointment to come learn more, you're going to go see Patty in the back, and Patty's going to help you guys out. What we do is, tonight you guys get 60% off your initial x-rays and consult if you want to sign up. So your initial visit is just $52. As simple as we can make it. So $52 for your first visit. Go see Patty, she'll help you out with that. If you have questions about stuff that we just talked about, I'm going to hang around. My wife, Dr. Lana, is going to hang around the back too.